Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. So today we have a bonus edition for the Wellness webinar, and we are joined by ESS and Healthcare Sustainability Director Rees Bramwell. So what we'll do is we'll just give it another couple of minutes, and then he is going to share his slides and take you through the presentation today. We'll be doing the Q&A in the same format, but I'll just give it another minute or so to allow people to join.
Excellent. Shall I take it away, Lottie?
Yeah, I think so. I will come off my screen, and if you're able to share yours. Thank you very much, Rees.
Thank you for having me today, everybody. As Lottie said, my name's Rees Bramwell, and I'm the Sustainability Director across ESS and Healthcare. And I'll be talking through Stop Food Waste Day, which is a huge day in our calendar, and always an exciting one, something we focus on every day, but Stop Food Waste Day gives us a particularly special reason to educate everybody and put a really big focus on it in our kitchens. And what we're going to be doing today is talking through what you can do at home as well. So this is how the session is going to go. We're going to talk food waste facts and to start with, and that will be some startling sort of facts to set the scene, I suppose, and then going into the common causes of food waste, then some practical tips, which I want to be the main focus of this webinar, and then route to tip cooking with some experts. We've got some great videos from Matt Lord, one of our ESS chefs, then the top 10 most wasted, and a little game of storage or surplus, and some further Stop Food Waste Day resources that you could try out in your spare time and in your day-to-day life. So what I wanted to do first of all is to set the scene, and as I said, some of the stats are quite startling around food waste. First one being that a third of all food produced globally is lost or wasted. And predominantly that happens at either the start or at the end of the food journey. So at farm level, a huge amount of food is lost or wasted at farm level for various different reasons. But then the other largest sort of responsible area is actually us at home. That's where the second largest area of food waste occurs. So then at UK level, 9.5 million tonnes of food is wasted per year. That's 9 Wembley stadiums, 90 Royal Albert Halls, 4,000 Olympic swimming pools, or 38 million wheelie bins that food waste could fill. And hopefully there's something in there that relates to you. And I think we can all agree that's a huge amount that we could really do with stopping. And then bringing that even closer to home, 6 million tonnes of food and drink a year is wasted in the home itself in the UK. And 73% of all of that is edible. So obviously there are some things in there, chicken bones, eggshells, etc., that we obviously can't eat. So we're always going to end up as food waste, but a huge amount, 73%, is actually edible. And that's the part that we want to try and tackle. And that equates to about 88 kilograms per person per year. It obviously has a huge environmental impact, so that's around 18 million tonnes of CO2 per year linked to food waste. And again, it hits our pockets as well, £17 billion worth of edible food wasted. And local authorities then have to handle that food waste and dispose of it responsibly, which adds further cost. So something in there for everyone's sort of motivation. And then one thing that isn't on there as well is that an awful lot of people are struggling with the availability, access, or affordability of food. I think we've all seen the prices rising, so we all need to act on this, and it'll benefit everybody and the environment in equal proportions by tackling food waste. So that's a bit on the importance. Next, we're going to have a look at why food waste commonly occurs. So there are 3 really simple reasons for food waste occurring generally, and the first one is food wasn't used on time. So essentially, we purchased too much. And again, that obviously hits our pockets. So that's one of the first things we can do to prevent food waste. And prevention should always be the priority. And we're going to be talking through some practical tips on these in a minute. So food wasn't used on time or brought too much and ended up going out of date, ended up as surplus. Then second reason is too much was prepared, cooked and served. So that could be too larger portions, overestimating what people can eat or who's eating that day. And this can occur inside the home or outside the home as well. It can occur when we're eating in restaurants or food service establishments. So the trick there is to try and be mindful of the portion sizes that we're cooking and preparing, because of course you're not just wasting the resources, the actual food and the money you've spent, you're wasting the resources at farm level. And since working in sustainability, I think that's the really eye-opening thing for me, is I've learned about not just that sort of really visible bit there with throwing food in the bin. There's the farming inputs, the producer's time and effort that they've gone to produce really good quality produce. Then there's the packaging, the transport, of course, the energy used to refrigerate that potentially, and the energy used to cook and prepare that. So there's a huge amount that gets wasted when we throw anything in the bin from a food perspective, and that's a really important reason that we should tackle it. And then there are bits that are not wanted or perceived as inedible. Some of that is actually inedible, but some of it isn't, and some of it we can utilise, and that's where we're going to focus. And the main focus of this webinar is going to be what we can do about it collectively. So practical tips on how we can tackle food waste. I think we're all aware that it's the right thing to do to prevent food waste, but doing it day to day is possibly the harder thing to do. So really practical tips. First thing being plan before you shop. So I don't think these are going to surprise you hugely, but it's about building them into your routines and habits. So when we're going through these practical tips, have a think about which ones do you build into your routines and which ones maybe could you start adding in there to improve on food waste. So what's in your fridge is the first thing to ask when you're planning your shopping list. Who's going to be in the house for that week or that day, or for some days but not all of them? Are you entertaining people? Do you need to buy more for that? Or are people going to be out at work and things out of the home, so not going to be around to eat? What does the week look like in terms of work, social activities, or your hobbies? Are you going to have time to prepare a meal from scratch? Obviously, we all hope to be able to do that and cook our meals from scratch, but the reality is things get in the way. So try to write a flexible and realistic meal plan to accommodate all these things that you know about, but include some stress-free meals in there. And so have some plan Bs, so have your cupboard and your freezer options available should things crop up in day-to-day life, even if you're not aware that they're going to happen in the upcoming week. And then plan a use-up day. Have, especially towards the end of the week, if indeed you do a weekly shop, that you can be a bit more flexible towards the end of the week and have a day where you sort of see what's lying around, what is potentially going to be wasted, and incorporate that into meals. Have a little bank of recipes to be able to do that. And then another trickier bit, easy to say but trickier to do, is to stick to that plan. So take your list, use handheld scanners. So most supermarkets have the handheld scanners now. So use those. They're a really good thing, especially from a budget perspective. You can see the price popping up. It's not as much of a surprise or a test of your memory for when you get to the till. So you can use the handheld scanners. That can be a useful tool. They can help you sense check special offers as well. Some special offers are more valuable than others. Some could inadvertently drive food waste. The buy 3 for the price of 2 are great as long as you're going to use those three of whatever it is you're buying. So sense check special offers, do I really need all of that, or actually is it extra money that I don't need to spend, and extra food that I'm not going to be able to eat? And then don't go shopping while you're hungry. That's a really old one, certainly one I remember when I was first starting to do my weekly shops. Don't do the shopping while you're hungry. That still stands, because we do get tempted by the other things. Stay aware of the dates. So try to get a first in, first out system, or an eat me first shelf in your fridge. It is a really handy one. Yeah, have the things that are already open at the front, and the things that have a slightly longer shelf life, have those at the back of the fridge, and try to work through your weekly meals or snacks in that way. And then a bit of awareness around date labels. So you'll see a mixture of best before or use by. Best before is actually about quality rather than food safety. So that date, if it's labelled as best before, isn't a must be thrown away type rule if that date does pass you by. And trust your senses in that circumstance before throwing away. Use by slightly different. Use by is a safety sort of date, so you do need to be a bit stricter with that one. But trust your senses before throwing food away, especially when there's a best before date there. And then the freezer's your friend. Obviously, utilise your freezer to give you that flexibility. Obviously, in your weekly shop, but also if things are looking like they're about to surpass their use by date, or they're sort of nearing the end of their shelf life, most things you can freeze. So freeze leftovers, even things like bread can be frozen, items approaching their use by date that go off. And then, of course, bulk cook. A really good thing from a healthy eating perspective as well is bulk cook your favourite meals. They make a really convenient future meal that's both healthy and waste conscious as well. So use all of those tricks that I'm sure aren't new to anyone, but still try and have a think about, do you build these ones into your habits? If not, can you start to incorporate them to reduce your food waste? But then there's a part 2 to these practical tips, and these are the ones that I'm going to show you some interesting bits on in the next few slides of this webinar. So storing food correctly is a really important one. So keeping your fridge between 0 and 5 degrees is really important. So how often do you check the temperature on your fridge? Is there something you need to adjust there? When was the last time you checked that? Because keeping it between that temperature range can keep food fresh for up to 3 days longer. And then it's about learning where each item belongs in your fridge to extend shelf life. A really great website. You might have mentioned the source of a lot of my statistics from earlier on was WRAP, who have a website called Love Food, Hate Waste. And they've got a product by product guide of where different things should be stored in your kitchen. Some of those might surprise you. Couple of examples here. Did you know apples, oranges and peaches should actually all be stored in the fridge if you want to extend their shelf life? So there's a big thing about, should we actually be keeping our fruit bowl in the fridge? I mean, maybe not literally, but the items that we might traditionally keep in our fruit bowl, should they stay in the fridge? Actually, only bananas and uncut pineapples belong out of the fridge. Bananas spoil very quickly in the fridge, definitely shouldn't be refrigerated, similar to uncut pineapple. But some things traditionally, definitely in my household growing up, apples, oranges and peaches were not stored in the fridge, but that is something that I've adapted since learning this one. And then get creative as well. Try to unearth your inner passion for food and get creative to reduce food waste as well. Turn yesterday's dinners into today's lunches, especially ingredients that sort of are nearing their use by date, fruit and vegetables in particular. I feel particularly passionate about that from a nutrition perspective. I don't like to see valuable nutrients going to waste either. So smoothies for your fruit, and then your soups full of vegetables, stir fries and wraps. Try and get a bit creative. Don't get stuck in what needs to be traditionally in a wrap as well. Maybe have a bit of freedom here, or a stir fry indeed. So if you've got some carrots that are sort of you're going to struggle to use up, why not grate those, include those in a wrap, even though it might not be something you traditionally see in those. And then have a root tip mindset as well when you're looking at your ingredients. Cauliflower leaves, broccoli stalks, carrot and potato peels, they're all edible, all full of great nutrition. Others that aren't mentioned on that list, kale stems as well, might be a bit tough if you were to try and eat them raw, but they can actually be a really nutritious addition and make your meals stretch a bit further. It might mean that you don't have to purchase a couple of other bits if you've made those stretch a bit further in your meal as well. Really great activity for kids as well, if you've got kids at home, to get creative in the kitchen and get them involved in these activities. And who better to hear from than chefs on route to tip cooking. So I've got a couple of videos here from one of our ESS chefs, Matt Lord, who does a lot on educating our chefs across ESS, and we wanted to share some of that with you guys to use at home as well. So he's doing his best sort of weekend TV chef impression here on a couple of videos. I hope you enjoy.
We are celebrating Stop Food Waste Day. So let's talk about a simple way to reduce waste in the kitchen by using all of your veggies. A lot of the time we throw away parts of the vegetable that are delicious, and cauliflower is a great example of this. Most people discard the stalk and the leaves, but did you know they can add so much more to your dish? Chop the stalk, shred the leaves, and blanch them along with the rest of your cauliflower. Make up a cheese sauce and pour over the cauliflower. Not only does using the whole vegetable make your dish bigger, because let's be honest, who doesn't want more cauliflower cheese? But the leaves add a delicious, nutty flavour that take it to the next level. Reducing food waste doesn't just reduce the amount of food going to landfill, it makes the most of what you already have. What are your top tips for reducing food waste? Share them in the comments.
And what's better than one chef video is two chef videos, so I'll swiftly pass back to Matt and he'll show you another recipe.
We are celebrating Stop Food Waste Day, so let's talk about one of my favourite ways to reduce food waste, fermenting vegetables. These carrots are past their best, but it's not time to throw them away. Let's turn them into something delicious. Give them a wash, then grate them up. Now it's time to boost the flavour. I'm adding some dried chilies and toasted cumin seeds. You can experiment with your favourite spices. Now weigh your grated carrot and add 2 grams of sea salt per 100 grams and mix well. Pack it tightly into a clean jar. Use a rolling pin to press it down. This helps release liquid, which is key for fermentation. Let it sit at room temperature for 3 days, pressing it down every 24 hours. Then pop it in the fridge and you've got delicious, tangy, fermented carrots. Perfect for salads or garnishing a curry. Reducing food waste never tasted so good. What are your favourite ways to reduce waste? Let me know in the comments.
Excellent. Hope you enjoyed a bit of chef tip there. As particularly fermenting vegetables is a topic that has grown in awareness in the last couple of years. Maybe something we might have been a bit fearful of previously, but actually is really straightforward. You haven't got to be an expert. There's really great recipes online, whether you go for a softer version like pickling vegetables or going the whole hog and fermenting like Matt did there. Again, amazing flavour comes out of those, and it helps you to prevent that food waste, gives you a few extra days to be able to use them, which is great. Also wanted to point you towards, in the most recent edition of the Wellness magazine, we've got a recipe in there on vegetable peel crisps as well, which is a great one. And again, just makes those unused, underutilized bits of vegetables go that bit further into something potentially quite fun, a good snack or a good little topping for a salad. So, what are the top 10 most wasted items in our households? So we're going to go through these, and in a minute I'm going to play our own kind of food waste game called surplus or storage. But firstly, let's have a look at the list. So potatoes is number 1, bread number 2, bananas, milk, salad leaves, eggs, broccoli, fruit, fresh herbs, and root vegetables. So these are the top 10 most wasted items. Sure, we can relate to these. Some of them have slightly shorter shelf life. So we're going to go through, and as I said, we're going to play storage or surplus. You don't necessarily need to comment in between. You can play it sort of between yourselves. But let's have a look at what we can do to prevent these items going to waste. So potato storage, keep them in the cupboard, but importantly away from onions. So the chemicals that onions release actually make potatoes sort of start sprouting slightly earlier. So keep them in your cupboard, but try not to mix them with your onions. Try and keep them slightly separate. So bread, this is a surplus one. What do we do with our surplus bread? Bake it into croutons, so chop it up, bake it in the oven really quickly. Croutons last a lot longer. Pop those in your soups, on your salads, whatever you want to do with those croutons are great. Or blitz into breadcrumbs that can create a little crunchier topping, add a bit of texture to your proteins perhaps. Bananas, I mean, you couldn't do a food waste webinar without talking about banana bread at some point. So surplus, yeah, everyone's COVID favourites, overripe banana muffins, banana breads, banana pancakes, whatever you want to use those sort of slightly brown or black bananas for. Milk, so milk's a tricky one. Want to talk about storage here. Traditionally, we keep milk in the fridge door, but actually that's where temperature fluctuates. It's one of the warmer parts of the fridge because it obviously gets opened more regularly. So actually the optimum place to store our milk is on one of the shelves, if your shelves are big enough to keep your milk on, with that caveat. So that's one thing we can do to slightly extend the shelf life of milk. And importantly, remember that temperature, keeping that slightly on the cold side to make your food stretch that bit further. And that milk included in that one. Salad leaves, if you've got surplus salad leaves, you can revitalise the wilted salad when it's started to sort of go that less fresh texture that we all know, is pop it into iced water and it gives it a lovely new lease of life, gives you that little bit longer and can make it that bit more enjoyable when you're eating it as well in your salads. Storage for eggs must be in the fridge. So water test them for freshness. So the water test, if you're not quite sure, they obviously have dates on, but if you're not quite sure, drop them in a bowl of water. If they float, you don't want to be eating them, but if they sink, they're usually fine. And yeah, eggs must be in the fridge. I know there's a bit of debate in the supermarket; they're not kept in the fridge, but for optimum shelf life, yeah, they'd go in your fridge rather than one of those egg cages necessarily. Broccoli, so got that slightly mixed up, sorry. So broccoli in there, the surplus tip that I would like to say on broccoli is about using the stalks. The stalks are really nutritious. Slice them finely, pop them into recipes, and they're delicious, whether that's a salad or roasted in a similar way to your cauliflower leaves. And then you've got a tip there for cheeses, should you want it as well. So hard cheeses, when they've gone a bit tougher, they can still be used in sauces, quiches, cook them, and they're fine. Soft cheeses you do want to be more careful on. Fruit, so if you've got surplus fruit, cook them gently with sugar and spices into a compote, or you can actually make them into a cordial. and dilute those into a drink, depending on how much you've got. If you've got quite a lot of fruit in excess, a compote or a jam is easy enough to make. Lots of great recipes out there, but if you've only got a small amount, you could make a small bit of cordial if you haven't got quite enough to make a juice. Fresh herbs, infuse these into oils so that the oil helps to preserve them. If you've got an idea that you're not going to be able to use all of those fresh herbs that you've got, and they make salad dressings a lot more interesting. Chili oils, rosemary oils are really common. Use those herbs in your oils, especially if you've got one of those pourers or a couple of those lying around. That's a really great way to just make those a bit more exciting. And again, another bit of health to get those essential fatty acids into your diet as well. Root vegetables, as you saw from Matt, pickling or fermenting those for an even punchier flavour is a great tip. So we are nearing the end. Before I pass over for a little bit of Q&A, if there are any questions, wanted to give you some extra resources to go and have a look at or explore if you want to go that one step further. So we want to stop food waste, but we want it to be beyond one day. Stop Food Waste Day is an excellent way to raise awareness, but we want to be living and breathing this every day. So we have in Compass Group, Stop Food Waste Day is a Compass Group initiative. We've produced a Stop Food Waste Day cookbook with chefs from around our global operations contributing. So you'll get a lot of different recipes from different chefs around the globe in there. If you wanted to explore that, that's on stopfoodwasteday.com. But then also externally from Compass, there are apps that can help you recover budget-friendly food as well. Things like Olio, which is where households or businesses can share food that you can pick up for free. Too Good to Go is where you can get discounted magic bags. You don't necessarily get to choose what's in them, but you can get around £12 worth of food for the price of 4 if you're out and about or within short range of a shop or cafe. An awful lot of different chains are on Too Good to Go, and that's a great one if you want to pick up some cheaper food. Then something, if you've got the space and capacity in your garden, is to restart that food cycle again. Try investing in a composter and composting your food waste, even the inedible bits, and then maybe even start a growing project at home. Get really in touch with food production. Really helps with the children. Again, a great activity if you wanted to explore that and start growing your own. But apart from that, thank you very much for having me. We are at time, so please pop your questions in the Q&A for me. Otherwise, please email our fabulous nutrition team, and thank you to Leanne and Lottie for having me on today, and thank you for listening. But any questions, email our team, and Lottie and Leanne can pass those on to me, and I can respond to those should you need to. Otherwise, for your normal wellbeing and health advice, please reach out to our experts there. Have a look at the latest edition of our wellness magazine, the spring edition. Lots of food waste tips in there, but also lots of other topics around well-being. My personal highlights in there are things like nature as well, with spring being a great time to get out into nature. But all sorts of great articles in there for you. Our webinars will be on the YouTube channel. We are ESS, so please feel free to check out historic ones. There's a great bank of webinars on there led by our nutrition teams in the past, and stay in touch for future webinars on the first Wednesday of every month. And final bit of signposting is please feedback to us on our wellness webinars via this QR code. This is where you can feedback to us, tell us what you like, what we could improve on, any topics that you'd like to be covered in the future. So I'll keep that on screen for another few seconds. If you wanted to get your phones out and scan that, leave us some feedback. Always great to hear from you. We've been doing these wellness webinars for a very long time. Not me personally, this is my first time, so thanks for having me again. But I know that the feedback is definitely always listened to and informs how we go about the next few wellness webinars. Thank you very much for having me. I'll end it there and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.